Hey everybody. Um, I've moved to my phone because my computer's motherboard blew up last week. So I am waiting on a replacement at the worst time possible, of course. But I have really wanted to talk about branding and the fact that it is probably the most overused buzzword of 2023. So, let me give you a little background for those that don't know me. One of my very, very dear friends passed away going on 5 years ago um, of ovarian cancer. I still stay in touch with her mom, and I was talking to her on Friday, I think, last week. Anyway, long story short, she was on a wait list to get into a strata with a Legion. So she's been waiting probably about 2 years now or so. Anyway, the time came, and she was pretty pumped about it and prepped her move. She moved last week. And in the past, we've used one mover. She used them to move from her family home. I used them when I moved in from Vancouver to New West. And so anyway, we continue to use this mover. And she asked me, or I asked her if she was going to call them again. And she said, no, I'm going to call this other company called You Move Me. And I was like, well, that's odd. She's like, oh, they have the best reviews and all my friends love them. So I said, okay, no problem. So, of course, when I talked to her on Friday, I asked her how her move was. And she's like, Ange, you're never going to believe it. They're amazing. And I'm like, okay. And she's actually quite hard to, I don't want to say she's hard to please, but she's certainly hard to leave a lasting impression on. And she's a senior, so she can be a little bit, what younger people would consider probably a little bit more work. Anyway, so I said, well, what happened? She said, well, first of all, they were on time. So anyone that's moved, that's a pretty big deal. But she said they called me at about 8:15, and they asked me if they wanted me, or they wanted them to grab her a coffee. And I was just, it actually took me back for a second. Can you imagine anyone who's moved? It's 8 o'clock in the morning. Either, even if you have a second body there to go get you coffee, quite often it's a pain in the ass to step out, right? You're waiting on your movers and you've got stuff going on and you've got last minute packing to do. And I just couldn't think of anything more genuine. They're going to stop for coffee for themselves anyway, right? It was just really like a gobsmacking moment of so simple. Maybe cost them $3. She's certainly not high maintenance when it comes to her drink. She's not drinking a $7 latte. So, and even if she was, you can't buy that kind of advertising on Facebook, I can assure you. Anyway, so they did the move, went really well. And when they left, or when they were getting ready to leave, they came in with a plant that was, again, a really great marketing move. Plants, they grow, right? Most people don't like to see them die, myself included. I get really upset if I lose a plant. And they stay in the house for a while. May not stay in that pot. That, by the way, was branded and said, You Move Me. I don't know this company. I've never worked with this company. I don't owe this company anything. I did go this afternoon before I wanted to talk about it. Apparently, they're a franchise-based company. So different owners in different places. The one I'm talking about was in Maple Ridge. So I'm not quite sure, but I can tell you that they've got something right. Listen, you can talk about branding as long as you want. We can talk color, we can talk logo, we can talk your copywriting, your messaging. At the end of the day, I don't give a shit what your copy or your color is. If you can't fall in love with your customers enough to make their experience your first priority, to make their experience so memorable that somebody clear across the country in Montreal is going to talk about it, then you're in the wrong business, because businesses crop up in every industry, mine included. Probably, I don't know, 10, 15 a day, depending on the market. And if you're all going after that same client with, I can make you $50,000 this month, or I'm going to change your life with this, or any of this kind of it's kind of the race to the bottom. Listen, I don't mean to be the bearer of bad news, but 1% of those coaches or those small businesses selling God knows what service are successful. That's just a fact. So if you're going to branch out, and I don't care what business it is, you need to find a way to fall in love with your client and to stop just regurgitating what other people are doing. And you need to find a way to be memorable. And they were memorable. So I don't know that moving company. If I was in Vancouver, I would clearly use them, but I don't know them. I just think they did a really bang up job. And, when I teach, quite often we go back to the granddaddies. There was a time when branding was reserved for big companies like Apple, Starbucks, Tim Hortons, if you're in Canada, big car companies, and big agencies where, you couldn't call an advertising agency or a marketing agency or a branding company. They're called agencies in our world, but without having a $25,000 to $50,000 retainer just to get them to talk to you, right? So there's a lot more to branding than a pretty logo or a color choice. And the most successful recognize that it has nothing to do with branding. You can have an ugly logo. Nobody's going to care if you bring them a coffee in the morning what color your logo is. You have to be memorable and you have to be authentic, and that means human, not fancy copy or this regurgitated, I'm going to make you rich this month. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Stop with the trying to be the last coach that went viral on YouTube. Again, you're talking about such a small, minuscule percentage compared to how many fail. So rather than unicorns and rainbows and trying to wash and rinse and repeat and regurgitate what everybody else is doing, sit down during the holidays and think about how you can become memorable. Memorable to the point where someone will do a little video on you out of the blue because what you did was not innovative, it was not special, it was simply kind. They were going to get coffee for themselves. They picked up her coffee, and it resonated. And it resonated with me, as a branding person, but it resonated with her as the client. And that's how they got her to begin with. They took away a client who had used a moving company in the past at least 3 times. Do you know how hard it is to take a loyal customer away from another company? I'm telling you, it's huge. So kudos to them. Genuinely, really, really well done. And a really valuable lesson for everybody as you're going into your holidays. And if you're a business owner, most of us are spending our mornings or our evenings looking at the new year and looking how we want to do things different. That's exactly how you do it different. Become memorable. Lose the buzzwords. Nobody cares about the buzzwords, particularly your customer. Fall in love with your customer and become memorable. And I apologize for my yapping dog behind us. Anyway, okay, that's it. I really wanted to get this out there. Have a good evening.